We are entrusting the day and the endeavor to the Lord. Let's go. Welcome to my channel where I visit many good books but live in the Bible. My name is Sarah Christine, and today we are going to talk about what it means to be a man using 3 classic texts of pulp fiction. I read all 3 of those books my senior year of college when I was in a pulp fiction class. Red Harvest by Dashiell Hammett, Riders of the Purple Sage by Zane Grey, and Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And again, while these 3 books are all classed as pulp fiction, their leading men could not have been more different. In Red Harvest, a crime noir novel, our leading man, the Continental op, is a middle-aged, fleshy private eye who likes to get other people into lethal fights. In the Western, Riders of the Purple Sage, Lassiter is a lone wolf with a quick draw and a fair bit of beef with Utah's Mormons. And Tarzan is an English lordling raised by apes who does not hesitate to throw the odd pineapple in a lion's face. Despite their clear differences in time, place, and circumstances, there is one thing that all 3 of our men possess.
Power.
Per Oxford English Dictionary, power is defined as the capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. And in Red Harvest, Riders of the Purple Sage, and Tarzan of the Apes, power so defined is something that all 3 men have in spades, though it does manifest in different ways. For the Continental op, his power lies primarily in rhetorically stirring things up. On page 85, he says, "Plans are all right sometimes, and sometimes just stirring things up is all right if you're tough enough to survive and keep your eyes open so you'll see what you want when it comes to the top." To his fellow operatives, he says on page 118, "If we can smash things up enough, break the combination, they, the crooks of Poisonville, will have their knives in each other's backs, doing our work for us." That is exactly what occurs, proving that for the Continental op, his first and best weapons are his words. Comparatively, Riders of the Purple Sage's Lassiter is notably taciturn. He is a man of few words, and his power rests in his commanding presence and fearsome reputation, rather than in being a backroom provocateur. Actually, his surname alone, just yelling Lassiter, is enough to make a whole gaggle of gun-toting Mormons turn tail and go home. Finally, Tarzan is our consummate muscle man of action who can subdue a whole village of cannibals on his own and can dispatch a lion with a knife and a little bit of rope. All 3 men, despite their differences, have the capacity to realize their desired ends, whether through words, reputation, or physical force and acumen. From this, we can glean that Hammett, Grey, and Burroughs all agree that when it comes to the leading men in their stories, power, in some form or another, is a necessity. Its absence in men is disqualifying. That being said, weakness and power are to a certain extent relative, and among our 3 leading men, the Continental op, Lassiter, and Tarzan, there is a gradient, and the rest of this video will be dedicated to determining which of these 3 men is the manliest. To best accomplish this, the Continental op, Lassiter, and Tarzan will be measured against 2 questions. 1, are they man enough to protect the people in their orbit? And 2, are they man enough to resist and overcome corrupting influences? Embedded in these questions are the assumptions that men ought to do all they can to safeguard the people around them, and that they should do so with integrity and discernment. In another word, men, in the normative sense, ought to be virtuous. A man like that is hard to find. I can't get him off my mind. Whether and to what extent the Continental op, Lassiter, and Tarzan are manly men will now be determined. When it comes to providing others with protection, the Continental op comes in dead last. Within hours of arriving in the town of Personville, the locals call it Poisonville, his client is shot dead, though his client's father retains him quickly thereafter, not only to investigate his son's murder, but also to clean up the city on his behalf, telling him on page 42, "I want a man to clean up this pigsty of Poisonville for me, to smoke out the rats, little and big. It's a man's job. Are you a man?" The Continental op agrees to do it, but his plan for Personville's purification quickly devolves into one of retaliation and revenge, with the op admitting, just on page 67, No, I don't like the way Poisonville has treated me. I've got my chance now. I'm going to even up. According to the late philosopher Rene Girard, vengeance is an interminable, infinitely repetitive process. Every time it turns up in some part of the community, it threatens to involve the whole social body. There is the risk that the act of vengeance will initiate a chain reaction whose consequences will quickly prove fatal to any society of modest size. Sadly, Girard is right. Within a fortnight, the Continental Op has stirred things up to the extent that the streets of Personville are running blood red. And one morning he wakes up to find an ice pick embedded in the chest of his quasi-romantic interest, Dinah Brand. It has to be said that Dinah would not be dead except for the events that the Continental Op set into motion, and he even admitted to her the night before her murder that he could have gone about cleaning up the city in a different way. He says on page 157, "I could have done that, swung the play legally, but it's easier to have them killed off, easier and surer, and now that I'm feeling this way, more satisfying. It's this damn town. Poisonville is right. It's poisoned me." Clearly, whatever his original intent, the Continental Op was unable to protect the people in his orbit or to resist corrupting influences. So, is he a man? Man. Lassiter fares markedly better in comparison. His first act upon arriving to the town of Cottonwoods is to protect a young man from being whipped by the Mormons, and he quickly commits himself to preventing the Mormon elder's proverbial yoke from being sealed around his lady love interest, Jane Withersteen's neck, even when Jane herself says she's willing to accept it. In fact, Lassiter goes as far as to kill the head Mormon, Bishop Dyer, who had been after Jane in order to protect her from them, though Jane herself doesn't initially understand Lassiter's motivation. She tells him on page 271, "You'll kill him for yourself, for your vengeful hate? No. For Millie Ern's sake? No. For little Faye's?" That's a girl who had been in her care. "No. Oh, for whose? For yours." Like, girl. When Jane realizes just how far Lassiter is willing to go for her, she's overcome with emotion, and she tells him, "Kiss me. Are you a man? Kiss me and save me." Lassiter is able to save Jane, but her salvation comes at a tremendous expense, requiring not only the slaying of Bishop Dyer, but the destruction of Jane's home, a frantic flight from the community, and being entombed with little Faye and him in a valley. Thus, while Lassiter wasn't taken in by the Mormon creed and he didn't bend the knee to the elders' tyranny, he wasn't able to overcome either of those completely. The best he could manage was to kill a personification of the creed, fire Jane's property to keep the Mormons from benefiting, and to seal himself, little Faye, and Jane in a place where they couldn't be reached. And while the valley appears to be this wonderful, like, land before time sort of place, the fact remains, Lassiter, for all his protective power, had to take the girls and run away. So, is he a man?
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tarzan is an altogether different case. From the moment he lays eyes on his Jane, her protection and well-being become his singular aim. On page 163, Tarzan thinks to himself, "But the girl, this was a different matter. He did not reason here. He knew that she was created to be protected, and that he was created to protect her." Tarzan won't be run off for anything. In fact, when Jane even appears to abandon him, he resolves not to do the same. Page 236, Tarzan asks himself, "What are you, Tarzan?" he asked aloud. "An ape or a man? If you are an ape, you will do as the apes would do. Leave one of your kind to die in the jungle if it suited your whim to go elsewhere. If you are a man, you will return to protect your kind. You will not run away from one of your own people because one of them has run away from you." Elsewhere, the jungle visitors, on whom Tarzan has no romantic designs, also testify that this is true. Page 241. "He had ample opportunity to harm us himself or to lead his people against us. Instead, during our long residence here, he has been uniformly consistent in his role of protector and provider." Of our three leading men, Tarzan is the most capable, competent, and consistent when it comes to coming to others' defense, and not only in the physical sense. At the conclusion of the novel, Tarzan asks Jane to marry him just moments after she has promised herself to another man. his cousin, as it happens, and Tarzan asks her how they should proceed because he always has her welfare in mind and he doesn't want to make her a pariah in society. On page 293, he says, "What can we do now? You have admitted that you love me. You know that I love you, but I do not know the ethics of society by which you are governed. I shall leave the decision to you, for you know best what will be for your eventual welfare." "I cannot tell him, Tarzan," she said. "He too loves me, and he is a good man. I could never face you, nor any other honest person, if I repudiated my promise to Mr. Clayton." Understanding that to jilt his cousin would be ruinous to Jane's reputation, Tarzan concedes. He doesn't even tell Jane that he, Tarzan, is actually the rightful heir to all his cousin's titles and properties. On page 294, Tarzan thinks to himself, here was the man who had Tarzan's title and Tarzan's estates and was going to marry the woman whom Tarzan loved, the woman who loved Tarzan. A single word from Tarzan would make a great difference in this man's life. It would take away his title and his lands and his castles, and it would take them away from Jane Porter also. Tarzan could have brought his cousin's world down around his head, more than just overcoming. Tarzan could have overtaken him. He had more than enough power to do it. The laws of British society would have honored Tarzan's rightful claim, and eventually he may have one day even been able to be with Jane. But doing so would have brought Jane to shame, and because Tarzan had committed himself to something greater than his self-satisfaction, Jane's protection, he chose the supererogatory course of action: self-renunciation. Self-renunciation, or sacrifice, as Rene Girard describes it, is a deliberate act of collective substitution performed at the expense of the victim and absorbing all the internal tension, feuds, and rivalries pent up within the community. When Tarzan refuses to claim his true identity, that is exactly what he is doing. It is an act of self-sacrifice, of self-donation, the abnegation of his titles, his estates, even his romantic satisfaction, all for Jane's sake. Because, as he told her elsewhere on page 283, "I would rather see you happy than to be happy myself." And when it comes to being a man, a manly man, a real man, total self-donation, self-sacrifice is what it's all about. The proof of this is the paradigmatic man of Western literary canon, Jesus of Nazareth, who not only gave up his divine privileges in heaven, but his very life in order to secure others' salvation. In John 10:18, we are told, "No one takes my life from me. I lay it down of my own accord. I have the authority to lay it down and the authority to take it back up again." And earlier in John 10:10, we are told that he has come that we might have life and to have it in abundance. Jesus was never powerless, nor was he ever corrupted. We are told in Hebrews 4:15 that he was tempted in every way, yet without sin. And his whole life was one of self-emptying, of self-donation, or as the Greeks like to say, kenosis. Jesus' example stands as the example of what it means to be a man. Even in his time, Pontius Pilate, John 19:5, standing over Jesus after he had been scourged more than any man, so that he probably looked like hamburger meat when the Romans were through with him. The ruler, Pontius Pilate, stands over him and says, "Behold the man." What it means to be a man is that you would rather be turned into hamburger meat than to see people you love suffer and die. You will say, "I would rather be crucified." There is nothing manlier than that. And even though it's been thousands of years since Jesus was incarnate, the ideal man has not changed, which is no surprise because we are told in Hebrews 13:8 that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Every man, fictional or otherwise, is measured against the standard that Jesus set. The closer they are, the more manly they get. And thus, when it comes to discussions of what it means to be a man today, it is not a revolutionary, but a reminding process that needs to take place. And by reading the words that great writers, pulpy or otherwise, have put to page, we can be reminded that for 2,000 years, the measure of a real man, the ideal man, has remained the same. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this was edifying, encouraging, and entertaining, and I hope you will continue to join me as I visit many good books, but live in the Bible. our consummate man of action, makes me think of Axe body spray in middle school. That'd take out a crowd too. That was just xenoestrogens. The water buffalo just passed her driver's test on the first try. Took me 5 times. I guess that means I'm more sanctified. I wonder if I could swing like Tarzan from my hair.